Thank you guys for joining. This is another weekly edition
Yeah.
on Wednesday, where I have the opportunity to interview and learn about the different markets all across the country. And so today we have Melissa out of San Diego and Taryn out of Palm Beach. Melissa, why don't you go first? If you can share a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in business. And I think it would be helpful just for others to know of the San Diego market, kind of what is the average price point, or at least the range that you see in the area?
We're right now, first of all, thank you, Spencer, for having me on here today. What an honor. So I appreciate you. And so as far as for San Diego goes, probably about 650 to 675 is about our average.
Nice. And can you share a little bit of your background in real estate, what you did perhaps before real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I was a nurse before I got into real estate, and I got into real estate about 25 and a half years ago, basically out of a necessity and a need, because my husband and I had purchased our first home with 2 kids, and we did not have a pleasant experience. So as a result of that very difficult experience, and the fact that I am a huge believer in doing the right thing, decided to get into real estate and become a advocate for people, like their voice. I would speak on their behalf, things like that. So I've been doing that now for almost 26 years.
Wow. All in the San Diego market, or did you move around throughout?
No. It's all San Diego. Born and raised in San Diego.
Wow.
And yeah, my platform is all real estate referrals. So I work by referral.
Nice. Wonderful. And Taryn, how about yourself out of Palm Beach?
So we actually got into real estate. It's a similar story. My husband and I have always been very entrepreneurial, and one of the main motivators is when we moved to Palm Beach, we also had some really bad experiences with agents. And I was like, my God, if these people are making a living doing this, mental note, when the time comes, I definitely need to explore this. And people don't realize the impact of those experiences. The fact that somebody didn't call you back over a weekend, or we were supposed to be moving in, and it was a 2-week notice that we came down, looked at properties. We went back up to Atlanta. That's where we were at the time. And we packed up our whole house, and we're driving down. And I think it was Sunday night. And I said to my husband, and he says, we were talking. And I'm like, wait, do we have a lease? Do we have an executed lease? And he's like, I don't have one. I'm like, I don't have one. Wait, how do we know we're actually moving in? We put all this money into it. The moving truck is bringing our stuff down. We're calling the agent. Nobody will call us back. Calling the property manager. Nobody will call us back. And we actually woke up Monday and we're like, my God, we don't even know where to park the truck. Is this even happening? So that kind of left a sour experience. And then we had another time when somebody was so rude because we didn't understand the markets. And instead of telling us this is what you can get with this money, and if you want, they didn't really take the time to just educate and be gentle. We were moving here under a lot of stress. We had a new opportunity. They just made us feel really unappreciated. So those 2 experiences resonated with us, and with all the businesses that we've been in, we're very customer service oriented. So when we got into this business, it was like, we have to be better than that. That is the model of what happens when you don't care, or you don't, you're not heart-centric. And everybody who has worked with us and the clients that have become friends have all shared the same thing. They know we care. They know we're in it for the long haul. And we don't have what is called in the ninja selling program, which is, has been instrumental for our success, commission breath. So I tell people when they're like, and they're always hesitant to work. And I'm like, listen, we don't have commission breath. I have clients I have worked with for 3 to 4 years or more. We'll never rush you to the table. What's here to do what's right for you, so that when you walk into your home, you know that this home was found with love and care and concern, not just for us at the end, but more importantly for you and the impact it will have on your life. And before that, my husband and I have always run small businesses, and we had carpet and upholstery cleaning franchises in Atlanta, and I handled customer service. In case you can't tell, I have that personality. Nice. And he handled a lot of the sales and training. And we just really we had this amazing training platform when we were living this experience in our early 20s. And people would say, "You're so young to be doing this," and we're self-employed in 23. But we were like, failure is not an option. And as we grew that business and became one of the top companies in Atlanta, when we sold it, and we couldn't, after another year, we started another customer service business, and that brought us down to West Palm. And I was like, we have the foundation, we have the business skills, and we run everything like a business. We just now have a different product, and it's a much more impactful product where you have lifelong relationships. So, with everybody who's worked with us and our agents, we're up to 9 agents. This is important. If they don't believe this, they don't feel this, and their goal is not to have this relationship with their clients, that's not a fit for us, because everyone who works with us has to have a similar experience and care as much as we do for people.
Wonderful. And how did you decide to move from Atlanta to Palm Beach specifically, or were there other cities that you were considering too?
So we actually, one of the companies that we had started after we sold our carpet and upholstery cleaning business, we identified in the market there was no specialty company for leather care. So like, really think about it. If you have a leather sofa, who are you going to call? Stanley Steamer? I mean, that's who people call, but is that a leather care company? So we created a company specifically for leather furniture, and we actually expanded into like the leather luxury market. We had a lot of stores that referred us for our leather care products for their purses. And the company that manufactured our products, it's an international company, and they were, the North American headquarters was here in West Palm, and they basically relocated us here and kind of bought our business and our concept and developed that idea into a franchise. And when that was done, the project was over, and we're like, we are ready for something bigger. We're back, getting back to working for ourselves. And that was in February of 2013, or I think January. I took the class. I got my license in February. I was a little over a month pregnant, so I got to deal with class while having morning sickness. And most people didn't know. I always tell people, you fake it till you make it. And even my first clients, I think my first sale and my first renters to this day still don't know they were my first sale and my first renters. Because you have to learn what you don't know. Never say you know something you don't. Just say, let me get back to you on that. Sure. And I'll never forget, I was at the closing table. And I was like, please, God, don't ask me anything about this document. I literally cannot answer one question about this.
Hopefully they're not tuning in right now.
No, listen, he's since moved and whatnot. And I would tell him the truth. But I tell people, like, and even my new agents, they get so scared when it comes down to paperwork. And I'm like, you have to be committed to finding what you don't know. And I was even 9 months pregnant. 2 days before I delivered, I was at a walkthrough. I delivered. The way I got admitted, I kind of ended up skipping a night in the hospital, and I went to the closing. And my clients are like, "You literally had a child in you like 2 days ago. Why are you here?" I'm like, "To make sure your property closed. We have a closing. I am here for you."
Wow, nice. Can you guys both actually?
That's what I call service.
That's service. That's called dedication. That's called dedication.
I see clients now. I see clients that were having they had little kids at the same time I did. So I was there with my baby in the carrier. Like I my husband and I, I had a 2-year-old at the time, so he had to babysit one. I was with the other. We were in a small condo. So I'm like, oh my God, the phone is ringing. You go to the other room. I'm going to the bedroom, and in the bathroom, I'm going to stand in the shower with all the doors closed so nobody can hear a child in the background. But those are the beginning days, and as we've grown, and that's part of our story, and it's it means a lot to people when they realize the commitment and what we've gone through to grow to where we are in a city that we have no network. We didn't have friends, college, there's very few alumni here, so we literally moved here not knowing anybody, and have grown to where we are. So it's pretty cool.
Wonderful. And can you share the average price points in Palm Beach?
So there's a couple of different markets here. There's the island of Palm Beach, which a lot of people, they call us like, I want a condo in Palm Beach, but what they want to be is near like the Mar-a-Lago and whatnot, but they're not realizing that $400,000 is not going to get them a 2,000 square foot ocean view condo here. So in Palm Beach, you have anywhere from like 1 to 3 million. In town for small units, you have ultra luxury 10 to 44 million in other markets and higher. But I would say 1 to 3 million in the island of Palm Beach, and then in West Palm, I would say 3 to 500,000.
And how far is that from where the luxury places are?
1/8 of a mile.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that close.
It's literally and so there's the county of Palm Beach, then there is the island of Palm Beach, and then there is West Palm Beach, which ironically, when you look on a map, it's west of the island but really the eastern section of the county.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Oh.
it's really East West Palm Beach if you want to get technical. And we have very different, demographics, property types, golf clubs, you have, membership communities, retirement places, condos for $30,000 for your 55 plus. And
Wow.
then you have, your ultra luxury where people, they buy multi-million-dollar properties to gut them or tear down.
Wow. And so, Melissa,
Yeah,
let me ask you a
I agree.
question.
Yeah.
What are the drivers, economic drivers in general of San Diego? You've been in that market for 25 years plus years. Like, what was it before when you first started, and how have you seen things change in San Diego in terms of companies or economic drivers?
Well, so for me, it's so funny because listening to your story about your children and getting into the business. Well, I was nursing my children. I would sit in the back of the classroom and would nurse my son. And when we would do farming, we would be in a wagon. And my kids, we even took my kids to open houses back then, because back then you could do stuff like that, right? Well, now that's unheard of. But when I first started doing real estate, we didn't have the technology that we have today. So we didn't have the ability to be able to do this FaceTime, Zoom calls, and things like that. So everything that we did was by telephone, and we didn't have the computer knowledge that we do have today. And we were having to take photocopies of the Thomas Brothers Guide, and we would have to get to work about an hour early just to be able to photocopy the pages of all the houses that we're going to go to, and then highlight it. Okay, well, we're going to start here, and that it was insane to think that that's how we were doing real estate back then, compared to the way that we're doing real estate now. It's like, I don't even understand how we did it, to be honest with you. I just don't. But we did. And now we're in a position where we're all having to adapt and quickly go from having all of these technologies to turning our business completely virtual, which has been a learning curve, I think, for everybody. But I'm excited, because I like the change. I like that we've gotten to where we are at, because that tells us that we can pretty much adapt to just about anything that we put our minds to. Putting ourselves, educating ourselves and getting ourselves immersed back into the community, building relationships, and trying to help one another during these difficult times. So I don't know. I hope that helps a little bit, but yeah. So.
It does, but I'm also curious from the city-wise, like, how have you seen the city of San Diego change? As in, what was it there 25 years ago? Now it's maybe a lot more Qualcomm and biotech, perhaps. Love to hear like those dynamics, drivers.
So we definitely are major biotech in San Diego. So we have a lot of those now in Sereno Valley, and we have a lot in Rancho Bernardo. That's where your big, huge techie companies are. Then you have your aerospace companies and things like that. So I think that overall has grown, which therefore, we started seeing a lot more development in the areas of like Carmel Valley, Carmel Mountain Ranch, where they're building all these new homes to be able to accommodate the people that are coming into our market. So we've also increased, we've opened up freeways. We put in the 56. And that has really helped immensely to be able to get from the I-15 North Inland area all the way across to the coast just by cutting straight across. So that's cut down a lot of traffic for people. So there's a lot of building, lots and lots of new development. Very how do I say it? Modernized industry, they're modernizing a lot of places now. I don't know. I just think a lot of building has taken place in San Diego over the last, I would even say, 15 years. There's a lot of areas that you probably wouldn't even recognize because there's so much building going on.
Is there much of an effect of, because I know it borders Mexico, and is that a positive for San Diego? Is that a negative over the years? Like, was that or it's not doesn't make much of an impact?
I think some people think that it has, but I'll be perfectly honest with you. I do business over there. I go get teeth cleaned over there. I've got a great dentist,
Oh wow.
and he also comes, to the U.S. So I value them. I value the border and Mexico tremendously, and I think that they have really helped us. I don't see where that has impacted San Diego at all. They have done a lot of growth building in that area over the last several years, to where it is actually one of the most popular areas to live is, let's see here, Ocean Beach or Imperial Beach, which is literally maybe one exit away from the Mexican border. That has grown significantly in value. I mean, where houses used to be, say, $300,000, they're literally the same houses with not very many upgrades. They're like $650,000 today, So South Bay was not some place where a lot of people really took up residency, and now you can't get enough of it. They have, the communities are different. A lot of them, the schools are really top rated in a lot of areas. Revamping, redoing the entire area. It is really a joy for me to drive around South Bay. And I work with a lot of military families, so, we're putting them in homes in those areas. It's more affordable to live down there for sure. But I think that I've seen the biggest growth has been in the South Bay area for sure.
Interesting. And Taryn, how about yourself? Like I know you haven't been there as long as Melissa has been in San Diego, but what are the drivers that you see of why people are either moving in or moving out of Palm Beach specifically?
So one, I actually grew up in Miami, so I'm very familiar with the South Florida market as a whole. And there's similar drivers to both, which I think you'd agree is pretty much the no state income tax has been very attractive, obviously, in consideration of what's happening with New York and New Jersey and other markets. We have clients that are coming here in mass exodus and buying properties cash with what they would have paid in their taxes in the Northeast. So that's number one. Number two, obviously, in light of this pandemic, people have been cooped up in these 900 square foot properties, and they're just calling and saying, I don't care what, just find me anything under this price point, I will buy it. I'm sight unseen, other than FaceTime and videos, some floor plans, and they're like, I'll move when I get there. It's a starter home.
Wow.
And it's pretty amazing. In fact, the New York Times just came out with an article, I think it was on the 16th, that there have been 80,000 mail forwarding requests from New York in the month of April. And the top 3 destinations are New York, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, and Philadelphia. So, there's also inheritance tax benefits. So, those drivers existed before, but has been exacerbated by everybody being in quarantine. So obviously, and the weather, shall we not forget the weather?
Yeah.
And also what you can buy here in consideration of those states. We had a property for sale in Long Island, that vacant parcel of land, under $1 million, property taxes, $47,000. I mean, think about that. Yes, exactly how I feel. And if it wasn't that I had experienced it myself, I wouldn't believe it, because everyone talks about it. So it's really funny when I have people who are not from the Northeast and they complain about the property taxes. And I go, so if you're homesteading it, and you live here as 6 months and 1 day of the year, not consecutively, but cumulatively, and your tax is 1.8% of the purchase price. And if you don't live here, we estimate 2%. Let's compare that to other states and no state income tax. I'm like, the state has to make money somewhere, but still look at what we're really talking about. And you can get some amazing properties here for, let's say 400 up to $1 million, 400, depending on what your goals are. I mean, I've seen some really nice newer constructions a little bit further north, like in Port St. Lucie, which is an up and coming area. And in West Palm, I would say 500 to 600,000 in some of these communities with low HOAs. You can get, a nice concrete block house. And then new construction in North Palm Beach, I'm seeing maybe like $1.5 million to $2 million up to multi-million dollars. But that's still a fraction of what people are paying in the Northeast and getting, 5,000 to 7,000 square feet versus up there, you're 1,000, 2,000.
Interesting. Do you find much competition between all the I mean, they're all fairly big cities like Palm Beach and the cities around. Do people tend to say, you know what, let me just go to Miami then, or let me go to Tampa, or let me go, to these, like, because it's, I mean, how do they compare and contrast one over the other?
So we have a lot of people when they come to us. I see people saying, "I'm thinking about Miami." People are kind of bypassing Fort Lauderdale,
Okay.
or they're comparing Palm Beach and like Naples, which is very unusual for me because everyone who comes from Naples, like, it's so quiet. You can get some great views, great properties, but it just doesn't have a social scene. So with any of our clients, we always go backwards and say, let's forget the names of the cities and what you know about the cities. Let's understand your lifestyle. And I do a discovery call with anyone who's willing to do it. Sometimes I have people who don't want to do it, and then shocking, they can't find what they're looking for, or they try to take the control and they send me properties on Zillow, and I'm like, listen, I can be a door opener, or I can help you find what you're looking for. Which one do you prefer?
Right.
But when we do this discovery call, we go backwards, say, close your eyes, wave a magic wand. What does your life look like? You wake up and you do what on a Saturday? Or, what do you want your commute to look like? And then we really help them kind of back into where in Palm Beach County. Miami is so congested. As someone who grew up there, my parents still live down there. My husband says the best thing about Miami is leaving, because it's the traffic. What used to take an hour back and forth, it's taken me 2.5 hours to get down to the same parts sometimes. So it's 5 hours. I'm like, I literally could have gone to Disney and back by now. We also have a unique downtown on the waterfront here. And if downtown West Palm isn't for them, and if, say, the island in town Palm Beach is a price point that they're not comfortable with, Del Rey is a great option. And now we have a high-speed train called the Bright Line that goes from downtown Miami to downtown Fort Lauderdale. Neither of those stations, though, are really walking distance of downtown. You still have like a quick Uber ride. The Bright Line in downtown West Palm is truly in downtown. You walk out, you have restaurants 1 block away in either direction, and trolley service. So that has really changed the dynamic of people considering Palm Beach. Plus, you're 3 miles to the airport. And with this high-speed train to Miami, people are realizing they can work down in Miami or Fort Lauderdale. And for, for the train, as an example, it's $5,000 round trip, kind of an all-access pass for the year. But for $5,000 for the year, you can't get the equivalent difference in price and property. So we have people buying up here and having the businesses down there and overcoming that distance objection. So and then same with Naples. When people are considering, I'm like, listen, go visit Naples. If you want something a little bit sleepier, you don't mind having to drive the activity, it could be a good option. But, depending on how many of these lifestyle things are important to you, stay in West Palm for a week, and then let's see if you still want to move somewhere else.
Nice. Like, how long is that ride from Palm Beach to Miami on the train?
On the train, an hour and 5 minutes from downtown into downtown Miami. And I believe they now have a connector going. If not now, they will, connecting downtown Miami Bright Line station to the Miami airport. You're about 40 minutes from downtown West Palm to Fort Lauderdale. And it's a first class experience. Richard Branson actually bought it. I think it was last summer or the summer before. And the Bright Line station in Miami has been renamed Virgin Central. I think it is a Virgin Miami. So it's speculative that it's also going to be connecting it maybe by bus service to the cruise, the port, because he has his cruise line now. And Bright Line is building into Orlando, and they already have a station there.
Oh, interesting.
So,
wow. Yeah.
So there's some really cool things happening, but without having somebody who's truly in the know and lives this and loves this, there are so many agents out there that are part-time and they all advertise online, but they might do 1 to 2 deals a year, and they don't take the time to go to the neighborhood committees, action committees, downtown action committee, for example. They don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So you have someone who's like, oh, West Palm, I don't know, it's not so developed. And I'm like, get in my car, give me 1 day. Every single parcel here has been sold and spoken for. They're all getting permitted. I think we have a couple billion in new construction permits that have been approved. So what you see now is not what you're buying. What you're buying is what is coming, and everything's already been spoken for. You just have to be here for the appreciation.
Oh, no, that's awesome. And so given these times, I know Florida has opened up a lot faster than California. But Melissa, can you share what is the current protocol to actually go see a house in San Diego? Is there any open houses?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
None. No, open houses are actually forbidden in the county altogether. If you are caught doing an open house, you're risking losing your license. Not worth it, in my opinion. Right. So one of the things that we're doing as part of the safety committee here is we are posting, I had one that I wanted to show you guys. Hold on one second here.
Oh, is it one of those forms that you post?
No, so we are doing the PEDS. We are doing the PEDS form. There are actually quite a few new forms that are that have been generated, and depending upon your county, I would encourage everybody to kind of log on and look at what your forms are looking like. They pretty much think they're about the same for Southern California. One of the things that I'm doing for my listings, because I am a predominant listing agent here, is that I have, you probably can't see.
We can see it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh.
But what it is you put it, we're having them made in coroplast, so we can put them up on the doors. But what it is it talks about, all visitors that come to the property must abide by the following rules. So what I do is I'm actually providing gloves at the door. I've got sanitizer, and I also have booties, which recently I just found out that people were getting sued because they were falling down in the houses from wearing booties. I'm like, of all things, we have lawsuits on this. So we have a protocol where only 2 people are allowed in a house at one given time, not the agent or their clients, either the client themselves and one other person, or the agent and one other person. But there cannot be any more than 2 at a time. They must wear protective face masks at all times in the property. And after viewing, I have put a little trash can on the outside of the property so they can dispose of their gloves, their masks, and all the shoe coverings that they used during their visit. We also make sure that they have not been inflicted with, or within the last 14 days have been in contact with somebody that was sick, may have had COVID. We're really trying everything that we can. Most of the people that are here, especially the buyers, they're sight unseen. That's how they're purchasing their properties right now. I will go into the property with gloves on. I basically have a full suit of, I have a full armor, basically. It's kind of funny, but I do. Just to protect myself. And I'll go in and I'll do FaceTime with the client, and we'll go through room by room. And what I'm currently doing is I'm doing all of the things that are necessary to get their house up, like the handyman work and, hiring people to come in and do the carpet and things like that. So we're dealing with a lot of that right now. We're also making sure, Spencer, that every single person that absolutely wants to go take a look at a property, that they are 100% approved. We need an approval form from the lender. I have conversations with the lender. I make sure that the client has proof of funds. And I also ask the agent questions about what it is their client is looking for. I've disqualified a lot of people from property just by that alone. Oh, well, they're just looking, right now. Well, this probably isn't the best time to look, for a property, especially with what's happening. This is a market for people who are ready to buy, like right now. So that's kind of what we're doing. I don't think that a lot of agents are really adhering to that, because I see people going into houses without gloves and masks and booties. Like, this is nothing. So when they do come here and work with me, I guarantee you everybody's wearing masks and booties and, things like that to protect. We are also using sanitizing wipes to wipe things down as well. So that's kind of what we can do here. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So got it. Yeah. I mean, health is definitely the number one thing right now. And so when it comes to those questions, as much as I understand, like some people like to browse open houses on the weekends, like that's not an option for a while.
No.
No. So
I think the way we're doing business is going to change altogether. Right. Even if things start to go back to normal, there's actually quite a bit of what we're doing now that I really like. I really do. And I think that we can weed out a lot of people if we really do the things that we're doing now when we were conducting our business beforehand. I think that it just weeds the looky-loos, if you will, out. I miss the open houses and the interactions with people, but my business has not slowed down here at all. In fact, I've increased my business. The first 30 days of COVID, it was very slow, and then all of a sudden, it got crazy busy, especially with new build.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that is interesting, the
Yeah.
new build side. Yeah, so yeah, I'd love to hear about that momentarily in terms of how you see the entire process change. But Taryn, can you share the protocols? I think Florida, like where outside of just real estate, but where is Florida at in terms of restaurants being open? If not, sure, what's going on in that perspective?
So phase 1, I believe, was last weekend, give or take. And then we were at 25% capacity for some establishments. This week was 50. A lot of the streets, like downtown West Palm has kind of one main road that has a lot of like restaurants and whatnot. They've actually closed the blocks and they put like sidewalk tents so people can be spread out. And more people are starting to do that. We're not allowed to do open houses. And to overcome that, just lots of FaceTime. We actually, I think like about a week or so after the lockdown really happened, we started quarantining early because of our 2 girls. When the rumors were kind of coming about, how contagious it was. And, I remember it was March 12th. They had we could pull them out of school. The next day was a half day. I'm like, we're done. We're not taking them to school, and we're just going to make it work. And then the next couple of weeks, it started getting really serious. We proactively bought a whole bunch of equipment to do 3D tours on all of our properties. And unfortunately, it literally took almost 2 months to get that equipment to us because there was like a rush to order everything, and everything got caught up in customs. I had one package that was in Orlando for like 2 weeks. So now that we have it, things are kind of opening up again for showings. But we did get that equipment. You are allowed to do showings. A lot of sellers are starting to, really be open to it. I had one client that's like, can I just leave the house open and you can come in the house and it can be an open house, but you are not having the open house. The house is open and people can just come. And I'm like, I love that. I can't promote it, but if you want me to show up and do it, I will. We didn't, but it was funny to kind of like to talk that through. Right. There is a virtual open house feature on our MLS, which has been an interesting development. It's great in theory, but I have seen a lot of agents kind of abusing that, and they're saying they have virtual open houses, but they're really having it go to their own page, and they're not really promoting the houses that they're doing, and so they're bypassing the co-broker agents so they can double end deals. And that has been an interesting thing. Yeah, my clients were like, that's kind of sneaky, and they're like, where's the open house? I'm like, yeah, that was 2 weeks ago, but they've kept the link up on all of them every weekend.
Oh, wow. Well, how does the actual virtual open house work, like logistically? Is the idea or the concept where the agent is them by themselves and someone can click a link and then they can literally do a FaceTime with them, or what is it exactly?
So some people are doing it as basically, I'm going to do a virtual open. I'm going to go hang out at my client's house from 1 to 2 or 12 to 2, and you can kind of go into the Facebook Live. And you pop in, I'm like, oh, hey there, let's take a tour. Some people are having that link take you to a Zoom link to schedule a bracket of time to basically create a showing. Right. Another local agent, what they're doing is like a 1 hour, kind of like a broker's tour almost, and they have like 3 properties. And I'm not really clear if they are doing pre-recorded videos, but making it look like it's live. But that's how they're promoting like all their listings, but they're only showing 3 per week. So they're, again, and it's also going straight to the listing agent site. So I'm like, that kind of defeats the fact that we can't put our own contact info in the public remarks. But everyone's just kind of trying to adapt to this. Showings have exploded this week. I mean, it was quiet. It started the last couple of weeks. People started getting a rush of pre-approvals again, individual showings or FaceTime showings. But this week, it's like everything is feeling somewhat normal. I had 3 same-day showings on one of my listings. I had repeat showings. I've converted a bunch of renters to buyers, just getting the mentality there because their credit scores are good.
Right.
People are being told they can't qualify because some lenders' guidelines have changed, but it's not all lenders. So somebody,
Correct.
has a FHA loan, their lender says, "Now, sorry, I can't do it if it's not a 660," but they don't understand there's still more lenders out there doing 580. So those properties are coming back on the market. The sellers are getting desperate, not dropping prices, but being maybe a little bit more negotiable towards closing costs. Then I have these renters that are coming to me thinking they can't buy. And when I look at their credit reports or their applications, I'm like, based on your first, last, and security and your credit score, you could totally buy an FHA property and switching them to buying. So, and I have a great calculator that shows like the rent versus buy, kind of like what the break even point is. And I'm like, well, if you're going to be in there for 3 years, wouldn't you want someone to pay you to move out instead of just fighting for your security deposit? So that's been an interesting shift in kind of like the market as well. Luxury has been hurting a little bit. A lot of buildings are not allowing showings in general, which has been an interesting conversation because I don't know if buildings can actually keep a seller from showing their property, but people are trying to figure out where in the bylaws they can challenge that. But some of these luxury buildings have hurt because a lot of those buyers are from the Northeast and they wanted to come see it. So kind of getting over that. And, I had someone at a building that gave me like a hand wipe. I had to wipe down the elevator thing. I had to wipe down like my hands, but they let me in. So I'm like, whatever you need me to do, I will come in like a full PPE outfit. I just need to get in this property.
Right. No, it obviously makes it very hard for people to want to buy if they can't even go see it. I mean,
but, I kind of feel that it's almost like, it's kind of like it's almost like it's like a challenge, if people I say to them, if we can get in, we're like the only ones because I will stop at nothing. I can't say the same about other people. But Melissa made a really good point about how this is kind of changing the industry. And, I've really instilled in my team members the value of pre-qualifying. And it doesn't have to be, have you spoken to my lender, but just understanding their financial situation, their mindset and timeline. And this is coming into play now more than ever, where it's always been part of our training. Now everyone's doing it. So it's more commonplace. Before, people get upset if we ask too many questions about their eligibility and their timeline. Now everyone's asking it. So you're getting more qualified opportunities for the ones that you're taking the time to go show.
Yeah, no, absolutely makes sense. So I know, Melissa, you disconnected for a moment, but for Melissa, how do you see the journey of a buyer and seller change? Because you mentioned the process right now for sure has changed, but moving forward, like where do you see opportunities of what you're doing that might be more, that will continue to stay? But where do you see potential disruption if you've thought about it, where maybe different tech platforms might hurt the agent business? Like, what are your thoughts related to those? Oh, Melissa, can't hear you. I'm not sure if you're muted. We can't hear you. All right, so maybe you'll try redial. We can't hear you, so you can redial, and then Taryn, why don't you answer the question in the meantime?
So actually, my signal just kind of faded in and out too while you were saying that. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
No worries. So the question is, the process has certainly changed over the last 2 months. However, moving forward, what do you, how are you changing your business just as a journey altogether? And do you feel like this is a great opportunity for agents to stand out more, or do you also feel like tech might be able to disrupt in certain ways at the same time? What do you think?
So I kind of alluded to it a little bit, with my long-winded reply before about how the buyer process is changing, and just being people being more aware about asking about pre-qualifications and their timeline. That for those of us who are techie, we've been doing virtual buyers and seller listing appointments for years. So this was an easy segue for us. We already had all the tools in place that everyone's now just starting to learn. But I do see for, agents who are not as adept to use technology, or they're resistant, I think they're going to get hurt. I think people are going to be, more skeptical about the looky-loos, open houses. I think that, real estate's going to become more intentional again. And even, like for us, like for our time, we don't know where people have been. They're talking about this going on for months. Another wave of this in the fall. Just asking someone, like, if you find the right property, are you ready to buy it?
Right.
And even getting them to commit to that. They said, well, I don't know. Like, then we have to ask ourselves, like, what am I exposing myself to? And that's been, kind of like the scary thing for me as people are now wanting to see more properties is there has to be another level of trust. Before it wasn't just you have a need to buy property, I want to show to you. Now it's how serious are you? And also in terms of qualifications, we had several transactions that all fell apart within like 3 days of each other, and they were all either self-employed loans or asset depreciation loans and loans tied to portfolio loans or non-QM loans. And it was a pretty devastating week. It was like the last week of March. Some of our loans were even approved, and then the lender has stopped originating indefinitely, and or that loan product no longer exists.
Right.
And that was painful conversations to have with everybody all around. And so we actually changed our process already. And when someone says they're a cash buyer, now we're asking, well, are you cash because you are liquid in the bank or because you plan to sell something related to the stock market? Because before, people were saying that they are cash because they have these huge portfolios and they'll sell before they buy. But when the market crashed and they lost 30 to 40%, people who were a cash buyer versus 800,000 now no longer could buy that. But they were cash based on the answers before, but we figured out that our cash was different than what was the reality. So that has already started changing for us.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Unfortunately, during that time, mid-March was when things were very unknown. Because a lot of things started to close in terms of the economy, but also from our real estate practice. And fortunately, over the weeks, confidence has continued to increase on their end as investors. So a lot of programs are back. But yeah, during that basically 1 or 2, really 1 week, it was really rough because they had this new level of risk that they weren't forecasting. So even those that got pre-approved, got affected, unfortunately, during that time. But for the most part,
I think we had 7 contracts in pretty much like a 10-day period implode. I had to meditate a lot those days.
Wow.
To remind myself. I'm like, I can survive this. Failure is not an option. I just have to stay the course. But there were some times there, and I'm like, why?
Wow. Now, I'm curious during that time because you probably had no more contingencies by then, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So did most of the listing agents were there issues in, or did they most understand too? Yeah. Or is
we're still feeling the pain of them. One of them, we have $100,000 escrow dispute right now.
Wow.
The contracts here, and maybe there too, did not specify pandemic as part of force majeure. So that has been a legal battle here. It's like, well, is this an act of God or is it not? And it's just one in particular client using asset depreciation loan, buying a property, and the people he was buying it from were buying another property, and the seller was an agent, and she wrote an offer on her purchase without a contingency on the sale of her home. So when his deal fell apart, they couldn't buy theirs, but they were upset because he defaulted because his loan had been pretty much approved. We were just waiting to close. We even were ready to close early. They didn't want to close early. So had she closed when we wanted to close, it would have been done. So the sellers lost their deposit, and they're getting sued for non-performance. They're pursuing the escrow deposit, and we're all thinking obviously an arbitrator is going to say, hey, listen, like everybody had this huge crisis. That he didn't default, he did everything in good faith, but we really don't know the outcome of that one. We had another one where I had the seller, the property getting bought, that property had a purchaser. So you have 3, everyone has contingencies. The person who was buying, the middle person's house who was buying our house, got furloughed 1 day to closing.
Wow.
1 day to closing, totally approved and ready to go.
Right.
And we're still feeling the pain of that. We have an indefinite. We have another extension into June. It's just everything had so many nuances, and we didn't know what to say because everything we had told people how they're protected by the contract went out the window.
Yeah. No, it was rough for a lot of people. Yeah. Melissa, same question before you got disconnected in terms of, how do you see the process change for yourself moving forward as well?
I definitely see that. I don't know. That's kind of hard in a way for me to answer, only because As far as the changing going forward, I can tell you that, with the lenders, tightening down all their guidelines, or really kind of weeding out the people who, I don't know, that are maybe looky-loos kind of buyers. And right now, what I'm actually seeing happen is that we'll get an offer, like what she was just saying is she would get an offer, or I'd get an offer, and we see contingencies being removed up front. We see all cash happening. We're starting to even see, interestingly enough, those who do actually have cash for purchasing properties, we're finding that, 2 weeks in, and they ghost everybody. They're like getting out, and we don't even know why. But the good thing is that we're back in escrow on properties immediately thereafter. This is something I have never really seen before in my 26 years of real estate. I've never seen that happen before. Go in escrow, 2 weeks later they ghost you, and they don't even tell you why they are out. I see a lot of people who could buy back in November, December, January, February are no longer qualifying because of the lenders, their guidelines and things like that, which actually kind of makes it a little sad in a way. Yeah. But being able to work with people who are already approved and ready to go is kind of a nice thing if you think about it. Yeah. But we are seeing 5-day contingency removals. We're seeing inspection contingency removals removed. Even people who have a property that needs to sell, what's happening is, let me see if I can explain this. So what they'll do is they'll put an offer in, and it won't be contingent on their property selling, but because they're into it by 2 weeks, what they're hoping is between the time frame that they remove the contingencies on the house they want to buy, they have already removed contingencies on their property. Therefore, their house is going to close sooner, and they're going to have the money to be able to. So there are people coming up with the most craziest ways to be able to qualify, to getting a home that I haven't seen before. Oh. It's, I don't know if you guys are seeing that or not, but that's what I am. We're running into that a lot here.
That's really interesting. We did have a round that had tons of multiple bids. It was really unusual. I mean, I'm talking like offers way over appraisal, waiving appraisal, waiving financing. Right now I'm seeing like 10-day loan commitments, 20-day, 10-day loan commitments, 20-day appraisals, trying to close in under 30, it's, I'm like, are we sure we're going to be able to do this? But everyone's saying they can't. They're like an overdrive. So it's been interesting. I'm glad we're not the only people seeing some interesting things in the market.
It's crazy. But I'll be honest with you, there really isn't anything that is happening right now that I don't dislike. In all honesty, the only thing, let me go backwards. The thing that I don't like is the ghosting. Here we have a perfectly beautiful home, completely remodeled. This family sent us the most beautiful letter. This is their dream home, pictures of their family, and 2 weeks into it, it's like they send us a notice to cancel. They don't tell us why. Inspection was great. Appraisal came back just great. Boom, they were gone. I've never seen that. I swear, never.
Wow. Now, don't they have their earnest money down? So aren't they liable for something or no?
Well, not really, because if they don't have their contingencies removed, if they are doing their good faith within the 10 days, that 10, 15, 17, whatever they want at that time, and in this case it was 17 days, within that 2-week time frame, it's, they decide that they don't want a house, they don't really even have to have a reason. They don't even have to exercise. But we are not entitled to any of it unless their contingencies are all removed.
Yeah, it's really interesting because contingencies are still fairly rare here in the Bay Area. It just depends on the situation and the competition aspects of it. But what Taryn brought up of 10-day loan contingencies, 20-day appraisal, 30-day close, like those are all pretty weak terms here relative.
Really?
So it's kind of interesting, yeah.
So if I can just share with you guys something, and I know that I'm not going to be the only one experiencing this, and I'll tell you, this is what's crazy, is that you get these agents who really want these properties, and I have 5, and in 2 of the properties, because the other ones are going live next week, it is the agents will say, you know what, we're going in at full value, we're going in $20,000, above, whatever, fine. But then they'll come back, even though we say sold as is on specific properties, and then they come back and yes, the buyer has a right, but the buyer signed it stating that there will be no repairs. Then the agents get upset with you because, they say the sellers are not willing to work with them, and it's not unrealistic for them to ask, and it's like, but you guys said sold as is. And I'm seeing a lot of agents becoming very hostile, very argumentative and combative and things like that because, what happened to holding people to their contracts? This is a problem that we're having right now in our market.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because it's really the education of that agent and that buyer to begin with, of what they got themselves into. Now they're trying to blame the other side, which is really unacceptable. Yeah, that's interesting.
They wanted a 240 volt, and we have a 220 volt right in the house, and the 220 volt has always been in the house. And so the agent argued with me about, wanting the seller to pay to have that upgraded so that the lady could sell it somewhere down the road with a 240. To me, that is cosmetic. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, but it's not, it's not something. And I'm like, fine, whatever. I'll pay for it myself. Let's just move forward. So I'm seeing that with every single deal. It is not sold as is.
Can you comment, Spencer, you made an interesting comment about those being really weak terms. What kind of terms are you guys seeing? Because obviously different markets, for what we're proposing now, I mean, that's strong for this area, but what's common there?
So generally, and I think it has to do with what is available up front. So here, at least in the Bay Area, what I personally like is all the listing agents will typically have inspection reports, termite reports, all the reports done ahead of time. And so when people read that and review that, they should have, with the guidance of the agent, confidence to make an offer non-contingent, which means no appraisal, no loan. That's the norm. Now, closing is slower for sure, but if we wanted to, we can still do 21-day close easy, right? But now it's kind of like 30 days again. Because then again, it's not as competitive as before, so there's not as much of a rush. But when it was competitive, the big banks can all do 15-day close. Right?
We have a company. We have a lender here who will do a 10-day close. It's not very common, partially because the sellers are not used to that, and they nearly have a nervous breakdown when we try to do that. But I mean, that's really interesting about having the inspection, all the reports up front.
Yeah.
That's kind of fascinating. I don't know if I said that to someone, I said, here's everything, you're going to waive the inspection period, right? And they're like,
Well, that's the interesting part because, I mean, I actually don't understand why all the other areas don't do it because, you come into this, they have an unknown, they like the house, but they don't really see the report. So there's a reason for them to back out. So why not do it ahead of time? Like, what other inspections are you going to do that's going to be different than this third-party person? So it's kind of interesting that other areas don't adopt it is the more interesting part from my perspective.
Do you guys, are the closings there done by attorneys or do you have title agents?
No, it's
no, we have title.
Thank God. Yeah. I dealt with my New York experience.
Right.
We had a couple clients once that were like, so rude to one of my agents, and they're like, what do you even do anyways? Because it turned out it was the commission that really was making or breaking this transaction, and they wanted her to like contribute like half of it so the deal could get done. It's like, because what do you even do anyways? We did just open the door. And that's when we really became aware of just how different real estate is in states like New York, where the agent does just find the property, work out some verbal terms, and the attorneys take it from there, and then they negotiate and handle the closing. And I try to explain to people, we are involved from day one until the day of closing, and these are the the 75 steps that we do to get you there to build that value. So now every time I work with someone who's from outside of our area and has bought and sold somewhere else, I always ask, what was that like there? So I can set expectations in case we ever run into that. Because it was pretty shocking to even be talked to like that.
Yeah, I mean, it rightfully so, right? If their expectation in the Northeast is that way, they may assume other areas are the same, and they may look at the realtor very differently because they're not part as much of the process, as our markets. So, but I think New York might be one of the very few, if not the only one that has it set up. I may be mistaken, but there's not too many that are set up that way. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and wrap things up. And so thank you guys so much for joining. It's great to hear both of your markets. Things are definitely interesting, and I'm glad things are still going very well for both of your business. Taryn, why don't you go first? What's the best way of people to get in touch with you in case you have any questions of Palm Beach? And I think there's maybe a little special thing that you wanted to share too. That you shared it to us in the beginning, yes, about the little package.
I'm like, is there a surprise? I forgot. I was like, what are you implying here? So, I needed a good laugh today. Thank you. Oh, it's so funny. So first, to reach me, I have a very easy name. Even if you misspell it while you're Googling, you'll inevitably find me. So it's Taryn Pisaneschi. It's T as in Tom, A-R-Y-N. And any version of Pisaneschi after that should 99% of the time say, did you mean this, Taryn? Our website is tpgpalmbeach.com, which is the Pisaneschi Group. So tpgpalmbeach.com, all spelled out. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Hunt me down. I'm painfully accessible, and I love what I do. I was on Twitter in 2008, and I never looked back.
Wow.
In time, my phone number. Yeah, I actually at one point was one of the top 10 most influential people on social media in Atlanta. And CNN had actually brought me in to talk to their reporters on how to use Twitter for breaking news.
Wow.
So, way back in the day.
Melissa's going to call you.
I actually was on Prodigy. I mean, I don't know if anybody here even knows Prodigy, but Prodigy was like the AOL era, like in the early 90s. And I actually was a Prodigy user, and I built my first website on GeoCities in 96. I taught myself HTML. I was in college in Boston. I would go and I got HTML books. I would draw out what I wanted my website to look like because they didn't have like the WYSIWYG sites. And so I'd actually draw it. I'd label the frame, and I'd write out the code, and I'd go back to my dorm room and I'd code it. So it's been really fun to see like the evolution of all this.
That is awesome. Very techy. Yeah, you guys need to definitely connect again after.
And in terms of, the surprise. So what I was talking about earlier before we jumped on our call with everyone is that the market here in South Florida is very different. We can get some great investment properties as low as $200,000 and up, and get concrete blocks, CBS duplexes, $275,000 and up. And we're starting to put together some offerings for people and kind of the markets like you're in. If they want their money to go farther, here are a couple different possibilities as to like equity in their house. They take out a loan. What can they buy here? How does it cash flow? And we have property management companies, and basically the same amount of money they already have in your equity, buying properties, assets, and building up your wealth, as well as properties for homestead. And you can get some really great condos in downtown West Palm as low as like $180,000, a cute studio, not studio, a one bedroom, 800 square feet. You can walk to all the restaurants, and you get your Florida homestead, you get no state income tax, great weather, and all the different things that people love about West Palm. So if you're kind of sick as to what your money buys you in other places, or you want more, or you want to build your investment portfolio, with Melissa and Spencer, we can help you. So let us know.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And
You're welcome.
Melissa, how about yourself? What's the best way of people to get hold of you?
I'm the same as Taryn. I am on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram under I'm Selling San Diego. 2 Facebook pages, and you can reach me at 619-823-6137. You can email me at Melissa, MELISSA, at melissahuk.com. or visit my website, which is awesome. It is really coming together super nicely, so please visit my website at www.I'mSellingSanDiego.com. So I'mSellingSanDiego.com. We do investments, we do new builds. I am a new build liaison. I work with military families. We are a retired military family, and military is my bag. I love the military. So if you are relocating to San Diego or you're relocating out of San Diego, I'm definitely going to be your girl. I'm one of the #1 referred agents here in all of San Diego County, so I'd love to help you.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
That's amazing. Thank you guys so much. Quick housekeeping item. So this is an event every Wednesday at 12 o'clock Pacific. Next week, we're going to have some guests from Austin and the OC. So looking forward to that conversation. But other than that, we'll wrap up. Thank you guys again. I hope you guys, everyone else learned a lot, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, YouTube world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad that you dropped by. If you liked this video, please be sure to smash this subscribe button here. And if you want to see one of my latest videos, please choose this one here. Bye now.